let's just take a moment and you start to ask yourself, what would life be like? Let's say you're president of the United States for a moment. All right. You are the president of the United States right now, and you see what's happening to gas prices. What would you do? What would be your solution to solve this problem that is permeating every single facet of American life? Because the problem is, we've said this before, is that when fuel prices go up, and there was a great interview from Steve Holstrom, the president of the company here. He interviewed the president of Hornbachers recently, and they said, Steve, one of the things that people may or may not actually fully digest or realize is that every time a truck backs up here to drop off the food, the prices are going up. Not because we want them to go up, because the price of the fuel is so dang high, they just have to pass that along to us. That's the other piece. I'm going to go on a tear today. I cannot stand it when I hear these people, which you're going to hear Janet Yellen, our Secretary of Treasury, say this in a moment. You hear Joe Biden say it all the time. And corporations, they need to pay their fair share. I will never forget this. When I was on TV, and I'm sitting with Congressman Colin Peterson, right? Good old blue dog Democrat, good guy. Well, many people don't realize, like, he's a CPA. He's an accountant. He gets numbers. And I remember he and I were sitting there in studio one day doing the interview, and he goes, Chris, the one thing that many people don't think about, corporations don't really pay taxes. Corporations don't pay taxes. And he's like, let me explain. All corporations do is they just pass that off as an expense to the consumer. So guess who's ultimately really paying the higher taxes, which Democrats want to raise again? Guess who's ultimately really paying the higher taxes? That would be you and me. So not only are they stealing from us with the Federal Reserve and inflation, but now they want to raise taxes on corporations. Boy, am I rhyming today. Now they want to raise taxes on corporations, and they're going to simply just, oh, okay, here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer. Here's some more expenses for you, because I ain't paying these taxes, which we have time at the end of the show. Amazon's looking to get a property tax break here locally. So let me just share with you what happens when, which, by the way, so coming up here in a moment, I'm going to play some clips from Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen. I also have to get to this clip from, if you know, U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow out of Michigan. You are going to hear exactly why. And we've said this before. The energy cost is planned. They are trying to make fossil fuels, cars, vehicles cost prohibitive. So you just go, you know what? Forget this. I'm not paying $8 a gallon. Just give me the EV and get me out of this deal. And the problem is that, when do the gas prices impact you? Today or 3 years from now? That would be today. They are impacting you and your family today, not 3 or 5 years from now. That's why what Debbie Stabenow says is really, really important. Let me give you an idea of what it looks like when you've got a president and administration, and rather than putting America first, they put America last. This is according to Congressman Lance Gooden. He says this, he tweeted out recently, in Joe Biden's America is where 36% of Americans have now reduced their savings. Again, you can't do anything about it. It's taking out your disposable income when gas prices go up, food prices go up. So 36% of us reduced our savings, 21% have reduced their retirement savings, and 25% have delayed retirement altogether, which, when you think about the workforce issues, may not be totally bad if some people are putting off retirement, but probably not their first choice. All right, let's get to a couple of these clips here from Secretary Yellen from earlier today. She was on a Senate hearing, many of them asking her questions about inflation, fuel prices, things of that nature. I'm going to play some of these clips and do some analysis for you. Here's Secretary Yellen from earlier today. Thank you, Super Producer Chris Larson. I got to remember to share my screen. Thanks to Sarah Set of Fargo. Here you go.
As I indicated in my response to Senator Wyden, I believe there's a lot that Congress can do to ease the cost burdens that households are experiencing. With respect to energy,
Listen to this.
Administration has done everything that they can to bring down energy costs. For example,
The gall. Remember, this is Secretary Young, the Secretary of Treasury, who stood up and told us recently, gosh, I'm really surprised. You know what? When I said inflation wasn't going to go on that long, and now I was wrong. My bad. Sorry. And now you've got the Secretary of Treasury sitting in front of a Senate hearing trying to, with a straight face, not even blushing, tell you and I, hey, this administration, they're doing everything they can to bring down energy prices. In fact, they're even going to Venezuela. They're even going to Saudi Arabia. What? Have you heard of the Bakken? Have you heard of the Permian Basin? Have you heard of Alaska? Like, does that mean anything to you since you are the Secretary of Treasury for the United States of America? They're not doing anything to obviously impact what's going on there. In fact, she tried to even suggest in front of the Senate hearing, like, hey, they've got all these oil companies that are sitting on leases. They're not doing anything. And thank goodness for Senator Crapow. He jumps in and says this.
That they have not yet drilled and
But the
certainly
permits
can do
for
so.
proceeding on those leases are not being facilitated. I mean, the president's executive orders have shut down the Xtel pipeline.
Now, what am I playing this for? Look, I know it's painful for you to sit here and listen to Secretary yelling a little bit, right? I get that. My point to you is that they don't care about you. For a Secretary of Treasury to sit there and with a straight face say, hey, the administration's doing everything they can to lower energy prices. What do you think? We're stupid? Don't treat me like that. Don't treat your fellow Americans like that. But that's what they think. That's what they think.
They have stopped the issuance of more leases. They've stopped the progress on the permitting of those leases, stopped the offshore oil production. The fact is we were energy independent and now we are not. And it's not the result of the failure of our capacity.
We may be energy independent and we're actually
Here we go.
exporting oil, but we're part of global oil markets, which are subject to geopolitical influences.
It's just so sad, again, that she's saying this, because think about it. If we actually go over to Saudi Arabia and start taking more oil from Saudi Arabia, which is being suggested down this administration, the other thing that nobody talks about is now we got to send over tankers and fighter jets to protect the tankers to get through the canals over there and cross the Atlantic and get back to the United States of America. Total waste of money when we could just go, hey, people in the Bakken, let's pump some oil. I have to play this clip for you because otherwise we may run out of time. So she goes in and talks about, meaning Secretary Yellen, about climate change. And, it's really important that she actually wraps it up talking about how it's critical that we understand, because of the geopolitical situation happening in the world today, that we have more wind and solar. That's going to solve the problem, is more wind and solar. So then they go over to Senator Debbie Stabenow out of Michigan. And this is what I want you to listen for, because this whole thing is planned. I believe they're trying to get rid of the fossil fuel companies because fossil fuel companies probably typically put more money into the Republican political coffers. And just listen to what their strategy is here. And now Debbie Stabenow, do you know how much it is for a Tesla these days? When you want to get a decent Tesla, it's gonna run you 40, 50, up to 100 G's, right? So inflation is up. Everything else is going on. Do you got an extra 100 G's for a Tesla? Most people don't. Here's what Senator Stabenow says at this hearing today.
With us, I do have to say, just on the issue of gas prices, after waiting for a long time to have enough chips in this country to finally get my electric vehicle, I got it and drove it from Michigan to here this last weekend and went by every single gas station. It didn't matter how high it was. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity for us to move to vehicles that aren't going to be dependent on the whims of the oil companies and the international markets.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. The whims of the international markets, when we are sitting on barrels and barrels and barrels of oil that we could be pumping into our own economy to create more energy freedom, more great jobs, more tax revenues, Democrats, if that's what you want, right? The more oil we pump, the more tax revenue that you're going to generate for yourselves, because you're going to get a piece of all that. But no, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. They just want to continue to push towards these electric vehicles, which then takes lithium and again enriches China. Ay. It's so hard to believe that these people are running the show, and we'll see what happens here, obviously, coming up in November.